It's The Sunday Papers with Rick Kogan on News Talk 720 WGN.
Good morning, everybody. So I'm sent a book some time ago, and I'm sent hundreds of books. And you got these two attractive women on the front, and it's called Growing Up Ebony and Ivory, and DePriest, Joyce Elizabeth Norman, a conversation between two women. This does not automatically rise to the top of my reading list near my desk. But DePriest called a couple times and was like, Rick, have you read that book? What are you stalling for? And I finally did read it, Lim, and I got to tell you, it's a fascinating story. And it's, I guess you both realize the topical nature of this now when the issues of race and togetherness are at the forefront of, I think, of the American dialogue. If you put the economy aside for a second.
Absolutely.
Okay, who are you women? I mean, it's all in the book, but Lim, you're from the South.
I'm from the South, a foreign country called Mississippi. Born and raised there and got out of there at the age of 19.
Like, there's a great story about, he's not from Mississippi, but the great Timuel Black, the great kind of the Black Studs Turkle, always claims, he says he was born in the South. It might have been Mississippi, and he says, now, Rick, what I did, when I was 6 months old, I realized what kind of place this was, and I got the hell out of there. I said to my mom, get me the hell out of here. When did you move to Chicago?
I moved to Chicago and after graduating from high school, May of 1961, and never looked back.
Yeah.
I knew it had to be a better life than living in Mississippi, picking and chopping cotton, so I made that happen.
It could be a better life, but in many ways, Chicago is and remains in many ways a terribly segregated city, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
And you,
Yes.
young lady, Joyce Elizabeth Norman, you are from the other end of the Mississippi, aren't you?
Absolutely, the other end of the Mississippi in southern Minnesota. And I grew up on a farm, and I grew up in an all-white rural town in Minnesota.
You remember, when's the first black person you met? Do you remember?
Sometime during my high school. And I actually didn't meet people probably until I went to college.
And Joyce Elizabeth Norman, interesting. How did you two eventually? In a very, very ladies' honest book, Growing Up Ebony and Ivory.
Yes.
Was that difficult? I mean, as much as you guys were friends, it really, and talked in the teacher's lounge at Buffalo Grove High School, it really gets a little different when you decide to put it down on paper for keeps. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because, there's too much of a tendency to kind of censor yourself and censor ideas you don't want everybody to hear. But you have to be able to give yourself the permission to just put it out there and tell the truth.
And I was totally unplugged because I was very raw, very emotional, and I wrote about things I hadn't thought about growing up. And I was in tears a lot, going and recalling a lot of this stuff I had to go through in Mississippi when I couldn't go to the college there because of the color of my skin, and where I couldn't go to the theater, had to go up in the balcony, and I could not work at a 5 and dime, and I refused to say yes, sir, and no, ma'am, and all those kind of things. And I guess I've been sort of like...
in many ways, you're lucky to have survived that. I'm serious.
Well, no, I had God leading me on. No. I was a visionary and didn't really know it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I knew I had this drive, this motivation, as I have today.
Do you think that understanding between the races is possible for everyone?
Understanding and action are two different things, in my opinion. You could understand the concept. You understand what is wrong. We all bleed red. However, putting those into play is totally different. And I agree with you earlier when you mentioned the fact that although I went through all these challenges in Mississippi, Chicago is just a little bit better, but you have to pave the way, as far as I'm concerned, and make things work for you if you got that drive.
And both Lim and I feel that the conversation about race is important. We think it's important to talk about our difficulties and what we don't understand about each other and how we are similar. And we think that conversation helps us transcend those differences.
Well,
we have.
this fine young man from the South Side out of Chicago who is going to become the president in a few days.
Oh, yes.
This has kicked in that dialogue on a million levels. You must be pleased by this, both of you, whether you're Republican or Democrat.
We are both pleased. In fact, we went together and worked on his campaign, and we drove together to Gary, Indiana, and we registered voters, and we got people out to vote in Gary, Indiana, and we had such a great time.
In fact, we were interviewed by the foreign press when we were there, the both of us, and it was just the most exciting thing I've ever done.
Well, the interesting thing that growing up Ebony and Ivory, there are a number of books out there about race, but few this intensely personal. They're bound to be, I mean, this is the first of what is bound to be a wave of this kind of thing, which puts you two kind of at the forefront of this, especially as two women from such divergent backgrounds and also so honest. You seem to have these fabulous husbands here, right?
Absolutely.
My husband's not here.
Oh. Where is he?
At home.
Really? He's okay. But it also, I mean, the honest part of this is about relationships, too. You know, I mean, was that difficult?
Well, both Lim and I are on our third marriage, and so that's one of the similarities we found in our conversation. Yeah. And my husband Charlie is here, and he is the love of my life, and I'm just very, very lucky.
It's great to have finally found that.
Yes.
It's great to have finally found that. You two, your husband's asleep, Lim? Just
my
joking.
My
no,
husband
I'm sure
is a
he's up
homebody.
recording this.
Yes, he's listening. In fact, he listened to your show a lot. And my husband's a homebody, you know, but that's
for
okay.
Him.
Yeah.
Good for him. Well, it's a terribly honest book. What's been the reaction when you've gone out you've done bookstore signings? Do you have anything coming up? You're going to be at some library, right?
We're going to be in Elgin Library on February 7th.
It's the Gil Borden Library in Elgin, and it's a
nice library. I've been to every library in the world.
It's a great facility. It's a wonderful facility, and they will have the Family Festival for Black History Month, and it's supposed to be well attended, and we're very excited about it.
And we also booked for April 16th at Prospect Heights Library.
That's great.
And, of course, wherever you're going to line us up.
Yeah. Me being the agent. What a nightmare.
Come on, be our agent.
You know, for two really smart people who used to teach school, if you think I could be anybody's agent, I can't even do my own agent. I'm not good at that myself.
It's action.
But I think you should do some bookstores. You know, I think of Burke's Books in beautiful Park Ridge and others. Because I think, you know, I got to think, and I'm sure it's happened when you've done various libraries and events, the dialogue must be fantastic with the audience. I mean, this is a book that compels people to say, how did you become friends? Why did you do this?
Yeah, I'm finding at school, a lot of the students, because we have one in the library that we donated there, a lot of students who does not read books are reading our book.
Interesting.
Yes.
And asking questions.
That's fabulous.
It really is. Kids don't read.
It's a remarkable accomplishment to write any kind of book, but to write one with this level of honesty and to address a subject that many people never talk about.
This is true.
Yes.
And this is about race in America. It's about how we come to understand one another and how we share, whether it's, you know, two bad marriages and whatever it is, how we share various things. Where's your husband work?
My husband,
can you say?
My husband is an elevator worker.
Yeah.
And a constructor, excuse me, and he's helping build a building on Wacker Street right now.
Yeah, thank God they're still building buildings. Yeah, that must be a tough business. Well, you two ladies, it's a pleasure to know you. And Lim, what's your husband do?
Well, thank you. My husband works for NICOR, and he's a manager there about 35 years.
I thought he was just like a total Rick Kogan fan. That's all he did.
Well, that he is.
Listen to my radio show. Congratulations, ladies. And I'll be in touch because I'd like to, you know, sometime maybe later in the year catch up and see how this has all gone, because I mean the dialogue is going to get louder and louder and louder.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And you're already in the mix. You can get the book Growing Up Ebony and Ivory at Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com.
Borders.
And
our website, of course.
What's the website?
Growing Up Ebony and Ivory.
That's so easy. Growing Up Ebony and Ivory.com. It's a pleasure to know you.
Thank you.
We will talk later in the year because I'd be very curious to see how you perceive the changes in the dialogue. Are more open, more scared? Who knows? Lim DePriest and Joyce Elizabeth Moore.